Welcome back to another Jakarta Tech Talk. I'm your host, Ludmila Muña, and I'm here to introduce our guest speaker today, Dominica Tassage, who will be presenting the DIY technical marketing real world tips for building a successful developer brand. If you have any questions, please leave them in the Ask a Question tab below the screen or in the chat box. Over to you, Dominica. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And it's nice to be on the other side and not hosting for once. I almost started with welcoming you all, so had to stop myself because I'm so used to running webinars for Payara. So thank you very much for everyone who's joined today. And I will try and keep an eye on the chat as well, as much as I can. If you have any questions, please do ask me, and I hopefully will finish before the hour, so we will get to them. So yes, my name is Dominika Tasasz, and I am a community manager at Payara. So I've been working with Java developers and Java communities for nearly 15 years. It's actually going to be exactly 15 years next month that I started. And I am, and as a community manager, working with developers and looking after developer brand has been something that I've been really passionate about, not just now, but over the last 15 years. So what I would like to do for you today, with this talk, the message that I want to send out to you is to show you why personal branding is really important for you as developers, as engineers, and especially today in the world that is getting more and more competitive. I will show you some examples of how those who I think do this developer brand thing really well do it, and those examples will be from the Java world. So hopefully you will see some familiar faces and some names that you recognize. And with all of that, hopefully I will convince some of you to start working on your own personal brand, and show you the meaning and the benefit of that. So let's put some context into this conversation and why personal branding matters for developers, for engineers these days. So let's begin with some definitions. I always like to start with just defining what we're talking about, because a lot of the times we assume we know what it is, the thing that we talk about, because it's very obviously used out there and we've heard it before. But sometimes there are things to some of the concepts that it's good to actually see in depth what the definition is. So with personal branding, very simple definition from Harvard Business School, hopefully these guys know what they're talking about, is the intentional strategic practice of defining and expressing your value. So value is a really important word. So let's move on to expanding on that. And this is another definition from Hinge. Hinge is an American research-based branding and marketing company. And in their definition, personal brand is the product of your visibility and your reputation, the way it's seen by your potential customers and your peers. So personal branding in that context is this set of activities that are designed to elevate your visibility, improve your reputation. And as you become better known and better respected, you grow in eminence and you earn power. And I highlighted those keywords on purpose so that you can sort of keep them at the back of your mind as we move along. So think about how personal branding can elevate you, can affect your visibility, your reputation, and make you respected and give you power. So why is it even a thing? Why should you even bother yourself with personal branding, right? Because the thing is that a lot of the times when we think about personal branding, we think, isn't that something that is reserved for, I don't know, footballers who have huge deals with companies that are sponsoring them, or maybe politicians who need to look after the PR, the public relations, and make sure that they're being voted, that they're going to be picked in the next tour. It's actually really important for anyone who these days is working with customers or is looking for a job, and that's including yourselves as developers and engineers. So there's a lot of reasons why personal branding matters, but those are the four key ones that I wanted to focus on today. So one of the main things is global competition. So yes, most of us, and I am aware of that, a lot of people in Java industry, especially those who are whose main job is coding, you've been working remotely for a long time, way before pandemic, way before things have shifted 5 years ago. And we cannot deny that global influence of that shift of pandemic has actually affected everyone, including yourselves, even though you were working, most of you have been working remotely for years. But the hiring market has changed, and the shift in remote work has shifted how people, how companies, how businesses are hiring for this next developer, next engineer, whether that's a long-term contract or whether that's a one-off short-term contract. So when you think about it that way, think about the number of the amount of competitions you have. You're basically competing against the whole world these days. So considering this huge pool of candidates, if you want to land that project, if you want to win that role or that client that you're going after, you need to make sure that you stand out. You need to make sure that you show very clearly what your value is. And it's not just about being chosen for the role and the project. That's great. That's the first step. But it's also about how much you're going to be paid for it. Another really important aspect why personal branding matters is the attention span. So the attention span of audiences, of us, of everyone these days has shortened, and it's shortened dramatically. And there's different research on it from different places. But basically, especially for the video content, our attention span is just a couple of seconds. That's nothing. That's tiny. So in today's digital era, where this attention span is actually getting shorter and shorter, making this first impression really good is becoming increasingly important. So this means as a society, so it's not just our audiences, so it's not just about people that we are talking to, and we're going to talk about a little bit more. I will expand on what is your audience. I'll expand on that in a couple of minutes. But basically, as a society, when we consume content, when we're looking for educational resources, when we want to learn, and most of it is obviously these days happening online, we are less able to focus our attention on anything for longer than a couple of minutes or even seconds, again, depending on what type of content we're looking for. And as a result, we see this trend that there's different type of content that is being produced and being consumed by us, or is going to be produced by you if you want to look into growing a personal brand. And that's what I'm going to talk about today as well. So also think about it from, if you want to imagine how this works these days. So we used to talk about this elevator pitch, which in British English, I guess, should be lift pitch, but no one says that. So your elevator pitch would basically be this opportunity for you to sell yourself, your product, your service, whatever you want to sell to this person that you are selling it to, in the time that you have with that person, that you have that time with them, as you go into the lift, into the elevator, you press the button, you go up to the floor. The time that you are with them in elevator is the time that you have to sell yourself, to show yourself, to show your value. So think about it that now this elevator pitch is happening online most of the time, and it's happening without you being present there. So you have to make sure that whatever you're putting out there, however you are presenting yourself, works for you and actually makes that good impression. Another point that is really important on why personal branding matters is it proves your expertise, and that proven expertise equals more money. And it's not just me saying that. So going back again to Hinge Marketing, they run a study where they found that people would be willing to pay nearly 14 times more. That's 14 times more to work with those classed as elite experts, as Hinge Marketing called them, rather than the average industry professional. And those elite experts, or visible expert as they call them, are those who mastered the personal brand. There's no doubt about that. So if you want to raise your prices, if you want to get that, ask for more money from your employer, if you want to get that raise, and you actually want people to really willingly pay it, you do need to start to work on your personal brand. And last thing, really important to mention, that consumers these days are very clever. One of the reasons for that is that all the information that they need is already out there. So majority of the times, at the point when a potential client comes to you, they already know everything that they need to know about you, about your value, about what you offer. Very important thing to remember is that most of the customers, they often know what they want. Probably most of the time they know what they don't want. So they value trust. So you need to build strong personal brand for people to trust you, because then you will be perceived as more valuable and more authentic. So there's more points to that, but these are the key ones that I think we should bear in mind when thinking, why do I even bother about this? So let's see some stats. So it's not just me coming up with all of these numbers and all of these ideas. It's actually backed up by some of the research out there. So this is the statistic from the research study done by brand builders, and it's actually there's a whole document about it. If you are interested in exploring a little bit more on this, there's a link there. So they've done a really big research. Most of that research was done with the audience in the USA, so just bearing that in mind. But the results would be very similar in European markets, could be different in Asia perhaps, or Africa, but for the USA, for the audience in the USA, the statistics are basically that 74% of people are more likely to trust you if you have an established personal brand. And 63% of Americans, in this case, because that was an American study, are more likely to buy from you if you have an established personal brand. So again, think about it, how important that personal brand is for you to actually be able to do your job and be paid for it. So how do you start working on your personal branding? And this is where the difficult part begins, because theory is one side, but then, okay, how do we put this in practice? So you do need a strategy, and the strategy may seem like a big word, but you do need a plan. However big it may sound, I will try to keep it simple and focus on those 4 key points that you should start thinking about. Your expertise, your audience, your unique angle, and your tools. So let's explore each of them in a bit more detail. So let's start with your expertise. What is your expertise? Ask yourself this question. And for some of you, it will be an easy answer. There's very clearly things that you know that you do very well, things that you specialize in. The answer would be simple. But for a lot of people, it wouldn't be that simple, because a lot of the time we are in a specific role or a specific position at work. Maybe we employed full time, maybe we have a long-term contract and we've been doing one thing for a long time, but it doesn't necessarily mean that this is the only thing that you can do very well. So sometimes you need to really spend some time and think about, what am I actually really good at? What is my expertise? You are definitely already an expert in something, even if you are a junior, if you're already starting, there is something that you are already exploring or you're working towards being an expert. That something could be very broad, or it could be very, very specialized. The more niche you can get with your expertise, the more you will stand out from the crowd. But there's also need to be a balance. So you need to think about it for yourself. So it's also very important to think what you really enjoy doing, what is fun as well as useful and profitable. So again, the balance is quite difficult, because you don't want to do something that is only fun and enjoyable to you, but actually does not bring any money, or there is no audience for it. That's not going to work. But also, if you go after some specific niche, for example, just because you know it's in high demand, and AI is the best example at this time. A lot of people invest their time and research, and they upskill in AI, which is great, is very needed. But think about, is this something that you really want to specialize in? Because probably it's possible that in a couple of months' time, because this industry, the tech industry, is moving very fast, a lot of people will specialize in the same thing, and it will not necessarily be as niche or as in demand as before. So It's also very important to find that balance between finding something that you enjoy and finding something that is useful and needed. Because if you only go after something that is in high demand at the moment, but you actually hate doing it, you will get bored or burned out very quickly. So again, it's not easy. It's actually not easy to define your expertise or think about what you actually want to do and specialize in. So this is something, this is the type of work that obviously you need to do for yourself and work it out for yourself. But the biggest thing is play to your strengths, your interests, and your current expertise, and work with what you've got. That's the best place to start. The next really important part is who is your audience. And I've mentioned audience before. So where can you find them, or even better, where can they find you? Because we already said that audiences, customers, clients these days, they are so clever that by the time they reach out to you, they probably already made the decision anyway, and they've seen or talked to or researched other providers as well. So you are late in the game at that point. So you need to know who you're talking to, who is likely to be interested in your skills and your expertise. So your audience will largely depend on your approach, how you deliver your work. So you may be in full-time employment, and you may want to grow your presence in the industry. Your audience may be the end users of that technology, of that product that your employer is producing, specializing in, not necessarily those who pay you directly. If you are looking for another client, maybe it is a short-term project. You like to move on from one thing to the next really quickly. It will likely be a specific type of company buying a specific type of product or using a specific technology. So again, this will depend on your specific situation. Perhaps there are some industries that your niche expertise is serving. So for example, cybersecurity specialists may be more needed in government bodies or banks. So ask yourself some of those questions. Who buys your services already? Who are the end users of the technology or the frameworks or products that you are already specializing in? Are you looking for one-off clients? Are you looking for a full-time job? Are you looking for a medium or short contract? Are there any specific industries that already rely on your niche expertise, and your niche expertise is serving those industries? So the answers to those questions will help you establish who you're talking to, who is your audience, where is your pool of interest for those that may want to hire you or use your skills. And for those, you will craft your content. And we'll talk about content very shortly. So every blog post, every conference talk, every book, every webinar, whatever you produce, every piece of content, every piece of code that you're putting out there, it will be talking to one or more of those audiences. So you have to always keep them in mind, because it has to be relevant for them. And it will help you stay on point and stay focused and attract the right type of interest, meaning the right type of clients and the right type of money. So find your unique angle. And this one is a little bit more vague. And this is something that can be interpreted in many, many different ways. And it will be very dependent on yourself as a person. But having this unique angle can really help your personal brand stand out. If you can become associated, for example, with a specific approach of doing your thing, your speciality, your expertise, your skill, specific method of doing things, or maybe special different point of view, it's often easier to gain notice. It's not necessary. This is sort of like a cherry on top, but I think it makes a huge difference. And as I will show you in those examples in a moment, the ones in this industry, in Java, Jakarta industry, that are doing it really well, definitely have this unique angle, and it's very well presented to their audiences. So here are some of the examples. So the example of a unique method, hopefully you already, some of you already recognize this little screen. So screen grab. So this is AirHacks Live virtual workshops by Adam Bean. So Adam Bean is one of the Java champions. And he is very well known in the industry. He is great expert at what he does. He does a lot with Java, with Jakarta EE, with cloud. So why am I bringing Adam here? I could pick Adam as the only example for this whole presentation, because he has so many great examples in his work that he's doing to showcase a really good personal brand. But this specific one, as a unique angle, is really interesting because his air hacks are basically those events that he is running weekly. And the biggest differentiator here, I think, is consistency. So his audience knows people that are actually interested in air hacks. They know that those air hacks are happening every week at the same time, usually on the same day. They are communicated weekly if anything changes. They are very, very, very technical. The Q&As are published on GitHub. There's not much branding, as you can see. It's very plain, very simple, but very much to the point. And the whole point is this technical knowledge that is being shared in those air hacks every single week, consistently every week for many years now. And this is great. And this is something that is building up Adam's brand. It's building up his audience. People are coming back. New people come to each episode. Some people are coming back again, depending on what the topic is for that week. But this is a really good example of this unique angle, because no one does this, or at least no one does this at the scale and consistency as he does with his air hacks. And that this drives a lot of attention, and this shows his expertise, because every single week he is doing a lot of education around very specific, quite often very niche technical topics. So this is a really good example of this unique angle with the type of content you produce and the consistency and just being there as your audience is expecting it. Another example could be around your personality, as I mentioned already. So it's all about skills, it's all about your expertise, but it's also about your personality. If this is the type of person you are and you want to put your personality out there, it's up to you. So talking about serious subjects, but also keeping it yours. So this is Trisha G. So Trisha is working for JetBrains, and hopefully, again, a lot of you already recognize her and already learn from her. So Trisha is amazing educator. She's great communicator, but she's also keeping it fun, and she's keeping it engaging. And you can definitely see there's her personality there, not just content. There's not just educational content. There's not just code. There's not just demoing. There's actually Trisha in it as well. So she's been making it even more fun recently, adding some extra spice to her content. And it will be remembered. It's funny, but it's also very, very important and very, very interesting. So again, another example. You don't have to do it that way, but this is how Trisha does it, and it very well works for her and for her audience. Another example could be showing your personal traits that are not necessarily part of your job, but they make you a human. So a lot of the times when we are looking for a business partner, we are looking for a client, a customer, we keep it very much business-like. Obviously, that's the way to do it. But if you want to build your personal brand and be remembered, so that potential client who may not need your services right now may actually remember you. Oh, there is this guy that knows this thing that I actually need. I remember him because of, for example, and I'm going to bring up example from the Jakarta world. So this is Ivar, obviously from Jakarta team, and Ivar is a keen runner. And to be honest, in this industry, in Java industry, a lot of people are very into running. It could be my thing if they weren't doing it in the morning. So those screenshots are from Java 1, so that was back in March this year. But actually, every single conference these days actually has those sport events, and usually those are running events, and usually they are organized by Ivar if he's there, or some other people. But there is something about Java developers and running. Please do them in the afternoons or evenings sometimes, because I could do that. I can't do morning runs, so maybe I should organize one at the next event. But basically, what Ivar is doing here, obviously, it's not directly related to his technical expertise. It's nothing to do with Jakarta EE, with roadmaps, with demos, etc. But what it shows is his personality, things that he does outside of work, things that he combines his work life and his personal interests. For him, it's running, and it actually even led to Jakarta team producing running socks, which I also have. But it could be anything else. So I had some examples as well in the previous version of this talk, where one of another Java champions, Arun Gupta, for example, he went on a trip to Antarctica, I think. Anyway, it was a big trip for a couple of days, very, very impressive, but had nothing to do with his technical expertise, had nothing to do with what he does as work. But it makes you remember that person. So especially if you can actually relate yourself to this. So if you are a keen runner, or your potential customer, potential client, or someone who can recommend you is a keen runner as well, they will remember you. They will see this post. They will talk to you at this event. You will mention that you are running, or whatever that is. I'm using this example, obviously, and they will remember you as a person that does running just as you are. And also is this amazing expert in particular field. So it's about making it personal in the best possible way. So this could be your angle. Again, up to you. You need to decide. But there is something about running in this industry I do have to explore a little bit more, because it's very consistent. So if you do watch any of the videos or posts, social media posts from events, you will see that there's always a running event somewhere. And last point was your tools. So what tools do you use? And here's where we will talk about the biggest and most important practical part of developing a personal brand, which is content creation. So let's talk about this. So again, these things are not just coming up from my head. There are there's a lot of information out there to prove those points, and there's been research done. Believe it or not, there's been research done on which type of content is actually the most successful and the most useful for those visible experts, because we are still working with this hinge marketing research that I've mentioned already. And again, if you want to explore more, please do. It's really interesting if you want to look into it in a bit more detail. So this is these are the tools that Hinge Marketing have found work best, and obviously with the percentage what is the most successful. And this is really helpful statistics on that. And again, visible experts are those experts that do it best. So in our case, that could be Java champions, Java rock stars, or any of those people that you follow on socials, or you follow them on their work on GitHub, or they actually are leading the project. So people that in our industry that do it well. So visible experts are exactly what the name implies. There are individuals whose expertise and exposure rise above the rest. So what tools should you use? Ideally, a mix of all of these, but obviously, realistically, and especially at the beginning, this is impossible, and you should not really throw yourself at all of these and spread yourself too thin. To narrow your focus, play to your strengths. And this is, I'm going to repeat that again. Your skills and your personality will help you define the best tools to use. And you may just want to focus on one or two and still be successful. So I now want to dive back into the examples so we can actually see how these things are being done by those people that do it best, in my opinion, in Java industry. So let's check our visible experts. So those Java champions, Java rockstars, and those leading Java specialists. What content do they use, and how close of a match their activity is with this statistics? And I can tell you straight away that it is a very close match. So let's start with event speaking. That was at 67%. Let's see what our experts are doing. So there's a lot of people that I can bring up here for each of those examples, but I have limited time. So for this one, I chose Mary Grigleski, and this is a screen grab of her Sessionize profile. Mary is a Java champion. She's a Java engineer, and of course, she is a conference speaker. So Mary is very active. She's been very active in the Java community for many, many years. She's running Chicago Java User Group. She's committing a lot of her energy, a lot of her expertise, her time to community, to open source projects. She is very into AI as well. And she's sharing her knowledge with others through speaking. This obviously works for her because she's also sharing her expertise, and she's showing how much of an expert she is in those topics. So if you do start getting involved in public speaking, and that's a big one, you don't need to do it, but it is one of the best ways to getting your visibility up and getting yourself out there and building a personal brand. You can start with small gigs like Java user groups. You can start applying to to bigger conferences as well. I will mention some of the ideas at the end as well. But I definitely recommend you, if you have already had some some expertise, some experience with speaking, even if it's just small Java user group meetups, do set yourself up with a Sessionize profile. A lot of conferences these days actually use Sessionize for call for papers, so you will already have to have it at least to submit the talks. So you may as well expand on it and add some more information to your profile. So obviously Mary's profile is very well built. She's had a lot of years of experience. She has all of these badges that she can list. This is a version of the best possible profile that you can have. Yours does not have to look like that. Mine definitely does not look like that, but it's there. So if you want to start somewhere, build yourself a Sessionize profile, and that will give you not only it will make it easier for you to submit to other conferences, because a lot of conferences, like I said, use it already, but also you can send your you can feature your link to your Sessionize whenever you need to share your speaking expertise. So yeah, so that would be something that I would definitely would recommend. The next thing on the list is writing books, and here's the mention of Ottavio, who I know is in the audience, so no pressure. But yeah, writing books was second on the list in that statistics at 61%. And yes, writing books is a big thing, and it's super time consuming. And this is definitely not something that I would recommend that you start with. You may want to, but it's a biggie, that one. And it's I would not recommend it as a first thing, like I said, but it is super effective as the research shows, and as the examples from our industry show as well. This is a very effective way of showing your expertise in very much in a detail, because if you are able to write a book on a specific subject, it's really quite difficult to wing it. You really are an expert in that subject. Another thing is that books don't necessarily think of a book as a bigger resource, but it doesn't necessarily have to be 300 pages long printed tome of a book. It can be an ebook. It can be a 10 pages long ebook, because whatever you are talking about can be explained in 10 pages. It's too long for a blog post. It may not be exactly something that you may do a video about, but you can write an ebook about it. So this is something that you may want to consider. And Ottavio is a really good example here. And this is an old screenshot from earlier this year, because I know that Ottavio since has actually published another book. So yeah, so this is a really good example from the industry, how these things work really well for you and how they can build your own personal brand. Next one on the list at 54% was referrals and reviews. And the thing that I always say is it's always better that someone else tells you or your audience that you're good than when you say that. Because obviously if someone says that about you because they had really good experience with with the service that you provided, with the expertise that you shared with them, that speaks volumes. So here are some of the examples that and I wanted to share, and one of those is the screen grab from Udemy course from my good colleague Lukman. Lukman is with me in the product team at Payara, and he's creating a lot of technical content. He's been creating this content before joining Payara, with Payara, outside of Payara, and one of the things that he does is Jakarta EE sessions, Jakarta EE training on Udemy, that he hosts it there. And look at the number of people that are actually consuming his content. So he's that's back in March, so I'm assuming there's more now, but 25,000 students, that's huge. Reviews, almost 4,000. So, and his reviews at 4.3, which I think is a really good number, but that also means there's probably some negative feedback there that he can use to learn from. Or again, it's quite difficult to please everyone in the world, but when you think about the amount of people that this content is reaching and the amount of people that give it a positive review, it's huge. It's very, very big for your personal reputation. So if you do think that you can produce something that will help others learn, because you are already an expert in this and you can share your expertise, that could be one of the ways to do it. Again, I'm not saying this is the only way to do it. I don't really think this is for everyone, because it also means that you're putting yourself out there. You need to be ready for negative feedback as well, because again, you will not please everyone all the time, but that helps you grow. So this is also a very positive thing if you are ready to receive that, both positive and negative. So something to consider, definitely. And another example, and I will be using some LinkedIn examples a lot, is the referrals and reviews from that are posted on LinkedIn. And this is another screen grab from Mary again, and she received quite a few references and quite a few referrals there. If you have LinkedIn profile, if you don't, we'll talk about it in a moment, but if you have LinkedIn profile and you don't have any references there, request them. The worst thing that can happen is someone will not give you one. You're not going to get a negative review, because that's not the point of those reviews. You actually approve every review before it goes public. But if you do have a LinkedIn profile and you haven't asked anyone that worked with you previously to give you a positive review, request that. Don't be shy. This is not time to be shy. This is the time to show that you actually have a proof that you are good at what you're doing. And LinkedIn is one of the best places to show that. So I do recommend you to try that. And blog posts and articles. Those were next at 46% in the survey. And this is the biggest one, I think. Blogging is, in my opinion, the easiest and most accessible way to kick off your work on your personal brand, and to showcase your expertise. Because these days it's very, very easy, because you can do it in different formats. So you don't necessarily need a website. You don't necessarily need to set up any special profiles anywhere. Again, depending on your situation, if you work for a company like Payara, for example, you can use a company blog. And this is again where, like Lukman's example, my colleague Lukman's example, he is writing a lot of technical articles that are being published on the Payara blog. That takes away a lot of effort from you, because you just create the content. It's not just, obviously, there's a lot to it, but the content that you create, you give it to your marketing team and they do the rest. And believe me, I am in a marketing team as well as product team. This is the dream come true. If someone like a technical expert from our team comes to us with the content that we can publish, amazing. So you will very rarely hear no from a marketing team if you can produce a valuable technical content that you can share with the company audience. If you don't work for a specific company, you can give it a go at writing articles for external specialized technology platforms. And good examples in our industry are DZone, InfoQ, there's others, there's Fuji, there's Medium, which is more generic, but it has specific themes, specific sections. So this is another example from Otavio. And again, those examples that I'm showing you are the examples of those that do it best. So something to strive for, not necessarily something that you will be able to achieve really quickly, but like look at Otavio's stats. So again, those are the stats from earlier this year. I'm pretty sure they're higher now, but there's 2.3 million page views. That's huge. That's so much exposure, and it doesn't cost you anything. You don't have to pay DZone to get your content published. You just have to have a valuable content, that valuable article that is going to teach others about something that you are already good at. You submit it, and if it's valuable, if it's useful, it will be published. You don't have to do anything else. So Otavio published 156 articles at the point when I took the screenshot. And it's working really well for him. And again, it's an external platform, so it reaches more people than if you had your own blog, most likely, especially at the beginning. You may actually grow it so that your blog actually reaches more audience or specific readers that you actually want to reach. And one of those examples is here with Trisha, who actually has her own blog, so she publishes her content on her own blog. So there's a lot of options that you can have. Also, LinkedIn. I'm going back to LinkedIn again. You can publish articles on LinkedIn. That's another way. So then we had webinars, podcasts, and social media as another point on that list of tools to use. But I want to focus on one specific type here for a moment. And remember when we talked about short attention span? And talking about that, hopefully you're still with me, because I've been talking for 40 minutes now, and I appreciate it's a lot of talking. but bear with me. So that short attention span, this is where the new video format comes from. And this is where we're going to talk about YouTube Shorts, Instagram Reels. And yes, I know a lot of the times when you think about short video content, you think TikTok videos, dancing, doing all sorts of silly stuff, jokes, etc. Yeah, that's one way of doing it. Probably not very applicable in Java industry. Although maybe, I don't know, haven't tried. But I think what you can do is still use this format, which is very, very useful, and create technical content as a short video. Create advice. This is what Ottavio does. Um, Adam here, another example, he does little code snippets, and those are really short videos, and they are very, very useful, and they grab your attention. They grab attention of people that want to see this content, and then from there they can go further and actually explore more longer, elaborate videos or articles or podcasts, etc. But it's also about grabbing the attention of your audiences. And again, another format of showing your expertise and showing that you are good at what you're doing. So it is the influencer style marketing. And this is what really, even in Java industry, even as techies, even as engineers, as developers, if you want to grow your personal brand, you may want to explore that. Again, it's not a necessity. You can still do other things and be very successful. But this is one of those tools that is very, very successful, especially has become very, very successful and very needed over the last couple of months and years. So yeah, I won't be recommending that you are going to set up your tripod and record yourself coding all day. That's not necessarily as interesting, but think about what you can actually share in a short amount of time in a video that can be valuable to your audience and that you might find valuable yourself, because you might as well be consuming this type of content already and finding it really, really useful. So Adam and Ottavio, they've been doing their shorts, their reels for a while. Again, this is the example of someone of people that do it very, very well. They've already had established profiles on YouTube and Instagram before, so it's obviously much easier to reach those large amounts of audiences. But again, you can start building things up. Another option is if you want to give it a go, but you don't necessarily have a channel. You probably wouldn't have one if you're just thinking about it. There's other ways of doing it, and this is another example from Trisha. You may get featured. You may approach other companies, other channels that are featuring a variety of different experts in a subject, and they can feature you as one of their videos. So you don't necessarily have to host everything and work on all of this yourself. You may actually reach out to other channels, to other providers, to other companies that are running those channels that actually need experts to contribute, and you can be one of those contributors. And that's also the case with Jakarta EE. Jakarta EE needs contributors, and we would love to, because I'm part of the marketing committee for Jakarta EE. We would love more content from experts out there that don't necessarily have time or they're not willing to run their own channels. We would love to help you share that, and we would love to help to educate our community, so you can get involved in that. And this example is from Modern Software Engineering channel that features Trisha amongst other experts. So to summarize, learn from those experts, follow them, see what they do, learn from them, ask them for advice and collaboration. Most of those people are very nice people. They're out there, they go to events. A lot of them run the local Java user groups. If they're not run them, then they get involved in them from time to time or very often. So if you do go out to those events, potentially, you can talk to them, ask them. They're really nice people, and most of the time they will be very willing to share their expertise on how to do these things and maybe give you some tips, maybe even help to put you out there. I know, like, for example, Adam Bean, he does little videos of other people talking about their thing, talking about what they're specialized in, and he puts them on his YouTube. Amazing. And a lot of people do that. A lot of those Java champions, a lot of those people that are really good at this personal developer branding thing do it. So please, if you have a chance and if you want to find out more, if you want to learn from them, do follow them and do ask them questions. They're out there online and in person. So one of the things that you can start with, that is quite easy to begin with, is create your own biography. Do like a little snippet, a little bio, and a lot of you may already have that. You may have created that for whatever different reason, even maybe for your company, maybe for LinkedIn profile. As part of your bio, and again, I'm bringing up Ottavio here. Hopefully, Ottavio, you're not bored of seeing your face too much now. I think this is the first time that I'm doing this talk with Ottavio being present in the audience. Invest in some good photos. Again, Ottavio is a really good example of this. I don't know who took your photos, Ottavio, but they're really good, and they're all over the website, and they can be reused, obviously, for all of the different options. But you don't necessarily need to have a professional photographer. A lot of the mobile phones these days take amazing photographs. If you go to events, there's often event photographer. Most of the time, if you ask them to take a portrait of you, they will. So do ask if you want to, but usually just even normal headshot is enough, accompanied by your bio. So this is an example from Trisha again. Going back to the bio, I know that it's quite often quite difficult for yourself to talk positively about yourself, about your achievements, about what you are best at. Use AI. This is where things like tools like ChatGPT could be very useful. Just list your expertise, list the points that you want to mention, list your badges, your certifications, anything that you achieved, and don't be shy. Post it all there, and it will create a bio for you, and it will make it look pretty. It will make it sound in a way salesy, and you can edit it, you can make it your own, because I am aware how many people find it quite difficult to just write 2 paragraphs of talking about themselves as those really great experts at whatever subject that is. Okay, so another example, because I'm also looking here at the chat, so trying not to get distracted, but also want to make sure that I don't miss anything. Another part, which goes another thing that you can do to begin with, which I've mentioned before, could be having a place to host your content, and especially written content, which is, I think, the easiest way to get started. So you may want to have a website or a blog, and a website sounds big. You don't necessarily need to have this professionally built, nice website to begin with. You may not even need it ever. But having at least a blog where you could start publishing your content could be super useful. So you can do it on your company blog, for example, like I showed you some examples from Lukman, just bearing in mind that you don't necessarily have as much control over that content when it's published. Again, depends how things look in your company. But you can also create your own profile on those platforms like DZone, InfoQ, FullJ, Medium, where you can host your content there. And when I talk about content, written content, again, don't think about a really long article like an essay at university or whatever. It can literally be a piece of code and a bit of a write-up around it. If you recently fixed a bug, if you recently found a solution to something that you've been working on for hours and days, write it up, share it with others. It could literally be code, couple of sentences, title, the end. If your audience is looking for this type of content, and you would have thought about your audience previously, as we said, that's all is needed. And again, a really important thing, don't think about new things. Talk about, write about, record about things that you're already doing, things that are part of your day-to-day job, maybe your project that you are doing outside of working hours. You don't necessarily have to start with anything new, anything out of the box. Talk about what you are already doing, what you are already good at, and that will be enough to begin with. And maybe that will be enough forever, again, depending on what you're doing. And of course, social media profiles, really, really important. And I know there's a lot of different opinions on that, a lot of profiles to choose from. If you were to choose one, do LinkedIn. Start with LinkedIn, because, and I got some stats on that, but this is where most of the hiring managers or people that make decision to hire someone either full-time or for a contract, they will be searching for you on LinkedIn. If you're not on LinkedIn, and that's in majority of countries in the world, may not exactly apply to every single country. There might be different cultural differences somewhere. But if we're talking mainly Europe, South and North America, LinkedIn is the place to be. I would also recommend YouTube if you want to create video content. Again, this is something that you need to decide for yourself. Everything else would be up to you. I know like Twitter/X is a debatable because a lot of people left, but at the same time, a lot of people are still there and conversations are still happening. So again, think about that. But there's Mastodon, there's Blue Sky, there's all sorts of different places that you may want to be. Obviously, there's GitHub, but that's a slightly different. That's not social media, but that's also where you can set up your profile. And you can also use those specialized content websites like Medium. So again, do your research, check what works for you, and start setting those profiles up. And I said LinkedIn many times before, and these are some examples again. LinkedIn is this great personal branding tool. Whether you like it or not, it is. 77%, that's the stat, I had this in my notes. 77% of recruiters are using LinkedIn to reach out to potential candidates, and they also double check your credibility on LinkedIn. Yes, they will check your website if you have one. They will check your blog if you have one. But LinkedIn is also showing the connections. It's showing it's your CV basically, and it's been around for many years, and a lot of people have been using it for many years. So if you had to choose just one, choose LinkedIn. If you don't have one or you haven't not updated it for a while, one of the takeaways what to do next after this, if you do feel inspired, go and update your LinkedIn profile. Your social media presence does speak volumes about your brand and your professional expertise and particularly the niche that you specialize in. And the good thing is a lot of the times you can brand it up, you can add images, and these days again you don't need to use a graphic designer. You can use AI tools to create some images to beautify your profile. So please explore that. It's a very easy, actually a very easy step to start with. And here are some good examples, quick examples of really good and really good use of various social media profiles from those visible experts that we've mentioned already. These are Twitter/X examples. I still call it Twitter, and I will not stop calling it Twitter. It's not just about the type of content that is posted, but also about featuring some personal and company branding again. So you can see IntelliJ with Trisha. You can see Java One, because again those grabs were taken around Java One, and it's a total coincidence that there is a photo of me with Eva there. Even your GitHub profiles can be personalized. A lot of people don't know that. You can add your bios to GitHub. You can add your links to GitHub. You can. You don't necessarily have to have just your open source or your project contributions there. But as you are developers and engineers, GitHub is a great place to send people to when you are looking for that next client or you're having this interview with the engineering team lead. Send them your GitHub profile so they can see all of the history of your technical contributions, all of the history of what you've done on the technical side of things. But you can also add those branding elements to your profile. And don't stop there. The thing with working on personal brand is that it's an ongoing work. You can't just set it up and leave it. Set aside some time each day or each week, whatever works for you, to work on those new skills. Don't forget to update your social profiles. Again, I said this before, it's not time to be shy. If you have a new certification, if you have a new badge, add it wherever, to whichever profile allows it. Again, LinkedIn allows you to add certifications and badges, share them with the network. Make work on your personal branding part of your normal working routine. It's an ongoing project and it will never end. So start building your job around it. So just to summarize, a couple of quick wins that I've already mentioned, but just to summarize. So use GitHub, probably something that I don't have to explain to anyone. Most of you would have GitHub profiles. You would be working on GitHub at least a couple of times a week, if not every day. GitHub is great, it's trackable, it's provable, very specialized specifically for what we're doing in this industry. You can create your profile there, as seen as the examples. So it's not just technical part, there's also the branding part. Build your social media profiles. If you were to choose just one, choose LinkedIn. Start writing and publishing. Try publishing articles on DZone, InfoQ, Medium, whichever. Research. Where do you actually look for articles? Where are you reading educational content that is helping your job or your project? maybe you can be published there. Have a look, see what type of content, what type of articles are being published, and see whether you can actually share your expertise and provide your input. That's one of the easiest ways. So again, you don't have to go out and do something totally new, or go to places that are totally unfamiliar to you. Get involved in community, and this is a whole separate thing which I do talk about a lot as a community manager. The Java community, Jakarta community, we always look for more contributors. We always look for people that are willing to help us, that are willing to commit their time. You don't necessarily have to code to be involved in community. You may do other things. You may do what I'm doing now, doing a Jakarta Tech Talk. You can go and help your local Java user group. You can help with documentation. You can, maybe you are fluent in another language than English, maybe you can translate some documentation. And all of these things are trackable, especially if you do them through GitHub, and you can talk about them. And those companies, those projects, those foundations like Eclipse Foundation, like Payara, we will talk about this to our audience. We will put you in the spotlight if you help us. We have some great contributors that we mention every month in our newsletter or in our release notes, etc. So if you do get involved in the community, in open source projects, you will be noticed and you will be promoted by those projects, by those communities, by those companies. Check out Call for Papers. Speaking at events is not for everyone. This is definitely something that really depends on your personality. If you want to give it a go, but you find that you don't know where to start, a great way is your local Java user groups. They are usually very easygoing, much smaller events, much less intimidating, and oftentimes they actually help you with your talk. There's also virtual talks, again, for many people, much less intimidating than face-to-face ones. Have a look, check. A lot of user groups do it as well. Another really good way of getting into speaking is being a co-speaker with a speaker that is already more experienced and is more likely to be accepted. So maybe you know some of the speakers that regularly talk at conferences. Maybe you can join them for a talk on the subject that you are an expert in. Also, reach out to companies like Payara, for example. If you want to talk about Payara, if you have something, a talk that features Payara community as an example in the demo, tell us about it before you go and do the talk. We may even be able to sponsor you, like sponsor part of the trip, for example. It really depends, and a lot of companies do that. You don't need to be sponsored because you may not want to. You may want to stay totally objective and totally neutral. That's absolutely fine. But if you are using the products of another company or another vendor or another foundation in your talk, let them know about it, or in your content, let them know about it, and they will share it for you because they want to spread the word as well. So it's very easy and simple way of getting out there to the audience that you wouldn't normally reach. Get some testimonials, like I've mentioned, get some testimonials on LinkedIn. You can take them away from LinkedIn, put them in your CV, and they will work for you outside of that platform as well. And last but not least, coming from a marketing person, I've been working in the marketing team for many, many years. Talk to your sales and marketing teams. If you are working with a client on a long-term basis, you probably have been dealing with other teams as well. If you are working full-time, even better, you have a marketing team usually there. We love to have involvement from the engineers and developers. If they can share the knowledge with external audience, that's all we ask for. Any format will do. We will help you. We will guide you. We will take the draft and make it into something bigger. But please talk to us, and we will do most of the work for you, to be honest, because that's what we need and that's what we love to do, and it's easier for us than it is for you most of the time. So you can start with that. It's a very good idea. And with that, I encourage you to go out there and take over the world. Thank you. I'm checking if we have
Thank
any
you so
questions.
much.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you so much, Dominica, for this excellent presentation. Yeah, I was about to say that if someone in the audience has any questions, please feel free to ask it in the chat.
And if you have any questions later, and there's Lenny. Thank you, Lenny. Lenny is one of those contributors that I mentioned that we do like to put in the spotlight because they do a great work. So thank you, Lenny. But yeah, if you have any questions beyond this, and again talking about attention span, I've been talking for 59 minutes. It's a lot of time to be focused on, but hopefully you managed to get some takeaways. But if you have any questions later, you can find me, guess where, on LinkedIn. You can find me through all of the Payara social channels, community channels especially, and you can find me at some events as well. So please do reach out. I'm very, very happy to help if you have any extra questions.
Let's wait a little bit. We are also looking to book more Jakarta Tech Talks for next year. If you're guys interested in presenting, please feel free to fill out the form that I leave it in the chat. And as a final reminder, also we have a survey that is now open, and we are looking forward to your participation. Okay, it seems that we have a question.
Yes. So can this be applied to a small IT service company? Definitely. So I think in those cases you can probably look into it almost at the level of an individual. You will not likely have a marketing team behind you, um, but you can still follow the same steps as for an individual approach. If you have other technical people and it's a small team, and this is how I started. I started with a very small team. It actually may be easier because you can cooperate much easier together. So let's say your team is 5 technical people, maybe less. You can set up a joint blog and decide every week someone else posts. So you don't necessarily build it up for the company, but at the same time you build it up for yourself. So you can work together like that. That's one of the ways. Thank you, Jose, as well for the feedback. Thank you.
Okay, well, it doesn't look like there is any more questions. So I would like to thank you so much, Dominica, for this amazing talk. And thank you
Thank you.
everyone for attending. I hope you have a really wonderful day.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for this opportunity. Thank you. Bye. Bye.
Bye bye.